Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Thursday edition of the program. It is Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Got a good show lined up, our normal Thursday lineup. We're going to kick it off here in just a second with our college football analyst, Brent Beaird. Second part of the program, the Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup. A lot of big games this weekend in high school football, getting closer to the playoffs. We'll be joined by Mike Ridaught from theprepzone.com. But if you missed it last night, the Braves are now up 3-1 against the Dodgers. The Astros take a 3-2 lead. It goes back to Houston. And then a big upset, I guess it's a big upset, in college football last night. App State beats unbeaten Coastal Carolina. So let's go to the Titan of our hotline. We're going to be joined by our Heisman Trophy voter and college football analyst, Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Shane, good morning. I'm a little weary after staying up watching the Braves too. So they've still got to close this thing out. They got to that point last year, as you know, and the Dodgers came back. So you can never count the Dodgers out. But and also, as you said, that was a huge win for App State. They rushed the field. It was their first top 25 win in several years, and that's a pretty good club. But both those teams are really good teams. So it was an amazing sports night all the way around.
It was. Real quick before we jump into what's going on nationally, you think Jamie Chadwell from Coastal gets any looks after this year?
Oh yeah. Listen, he's been getting looks for the last few years. Maybe not as seriously as it will take, but he has done a really good job. I'm curious if you've been up there, but they're working on their facilities. He's a good coach. He just, Shane, he's just one of these guys that is. He's just a regular guy who's a football coach, and it's worked. So, frankly. That is a good program that's come along in a short period of time.
Yeah, and I've never been up there. Obviously, they've built that program from, not too long ago, they weren't playing football at all. But yeah,
right.
when you hear him do like the interviews before the game with the sideline report, you're thinking he's a high school coach at a 1A school in Georgia is what he sounds like.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great description. Yes, it is.
Yeah, but he's done a tremendous job there. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets a bigger opportunity this year. Brent, the AP poll is out. I don't think there's any surprises, or are there any surprises to you?
No. At this point, it's been about the same. Now we're still a couple of weeks away from the poll that matters with the college football playoff committee poll. That will be the first Tuesday in November. We would kind of wait and see where this is. And again, without belaboring the point, to me, what's going to be interesting is where are they going to have Cincinnati in the poll? They're obviously two, which is rarefied air for Cincinnati. But will the committee look at them that way?
Yeah, they're a good football team, so we'll see. When do the playoff, the TV shows and all that, the rankings and all that, when's that start?
Yeah. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. It's actually starting a little bit later this year than it normally does, but that will be the first Tuesday in November.
Yeah, Rick asked real quick here on Facebook Live, what do I think about AR-15 hiring an attorney and agent advisor for the NIL? They all have one. There's one group. There's one group. Yeah, it pretty much, if you have any kind of NIL deal, you have an agent representing you. That's the only way it happens. So, I've been high on UT San Antonio, the Roadrunners. I don't even know what conference they play in, Brent. but they're undefeated. They finally, first time ever, I believe, they're in the top 25. Do you know anything about the Roadrunners?
I know a little bit, but not that much. But I'm kind of like you with that. But I mean, look, I give them credit. They've been around for a while, but they now have really kind of gotten to the point where they've gotten a little bit of attention. I mean, look, you've got San Diego State here too. San Diego State's coached by Brady Hoke, who used to be at Michigan. People forget things like that, but that to me is the interesting thing that Purdue got in at 25 because they beat Iowa. Also, Dave Aranda's done a really good job at Baylor. So, and then you've got NC State at 18. So, and then Pitt again at 23. Is frankly the best, arguably the best school in the ACC right now. That's not named Clemson. So, but look, we're all limited on our knowledge on UTSA, but I give them credit for what they've done.
Yeah, we got a Facebook Live, speaking of Pitt right here, brought to you by Melvin Law. John asked, Brent, as a Heisman voter, how much is being paid attention to Kenny Pickett and how well he's playing right now?
A lot, and that cannot be ignored. That he is really good. I'm curious if you've seen him much, but he has done a tremendous job for them, and I know I'm certainly looking at him, and I'm sure a lot of people are too. So yes, that's a good question. Keep your eye on Pickett and Pitt.
Let's say that a bunch of times.
Really?
Yeah, so, what's interesting is Pitt, very good football team. They're coached well by Pat Narduzzi. And I think they only have one loss this year, and it was to Western Michigan. If not, I think, am I wrong there? Aren't they only got one loss, Brent?
Let me double check that.
Because if not, they would be in the top 10, 15, I would think. But they had a bad loss to, I believe, to Western Michigan, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, Brent. You have to look stuff up. Yeah, we got a great staff here at our Facebook Live. Dan says they're 5-1 and they're 2-0 in the ACC. So we got people doing research for us. I love it. Turn your car or truck into a rolling billboard for your business or brand with an eye-catching vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. This October, mention promo code Shane, receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. Speaking with Brent Beaird here on the Titan MR Hotline. Brent, Terry Bowden at Louisiana Monroe, huge upset over Hugh Freeze. Huge upset last week.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They, I was quite impressed. I mean, Terry Bowden basically just got there. Rich Rodriguez is his offensive coordinator, so that was easily one of the biggest upsets for anybody at this point. So, and look, he'll do a pretty good job in turning that team around. He wanted a real challenge, and by the way, Liberty quarterback by Malik Willis, who used to be at Auburn, and I don't know if people have peeked ahead at this, but this is going to be really amazing when it happens. But Liberty is going to Ole Miss, and obviously Hugh Freeze was at Ole Miss with all the, and he left in a really difficult situation, to say the least. So there will be a lot of publicity the week that game happens, and it's coming up soon.
Yes, there's no question about that. I'm anxious to see if Hugh Freeze gets any looks from any big schools this year. We still got some unbeaten teams, and then we have a couple of teams that ain't won a game.
Yeah, absolutely. Wake Forest, Michigan, Michigan State, Oklahoma State. This Oklahoma State team is really good. They've got one of the better defenses in the nation. Georgia, Cincinnati, Coastal Carolina was, but they're not now. San Diego State, as we mentioned, and Arizona and UNLV are still winless. Shane, did this surprise you? UConn beat Yale 21-16, intercepting a Hail Mary on the final play of the game.
Yeah, the Huskies finally get their first win of the year. Bad football team.
Really?
The NCAA now, I don't know if I read this correctly, Grant. Athletes are no longer to have to take the ACT or the SAT?
Well, the recommendation from the standardized task force is what this is called, has recommended that initial eligibility standards for high school students preparing to play Division I or II sports no longer include a standardized test score requirement. Now that's a mouthful, frankly. They've had various task force do a lot of work on this, and this is what they are recommending. It's got to go through a lot of different committees. Look, we all who have covered this sport remember well Prop 48, kids going through JUCO, the emphasis on standardized test scores and where that's going to be. But your Knight Commission, the National Association for College Admission Counseling, and others like that, the ACT board, have all weighed in on this, and they're supposed to be recommended in the next meeting in February of 2022. We don't know if this will pass or not, but I mean, Shane, you remember how this has been over the years and what's required. I mean, frankly, in recruiting, to me, this is earth-shaking in a lot of ways if this happens. So I'm not saying it will, but I wanted people to be aware that it is there, and that is the proposal. And if it passes in February of 2022, I don't know if he'll go into play then or a year later.
Yeah, that's pretty bizarre, quite honestly. It's kind of that's the first I'd heard of it. So anyway, in the state of Florida, all the schools in the last 10 games have not played very good football.
This is difficult for us to even read, but unfortunately that's the case. Central Florida's 5-5. Well, in the last 10 games, and then you've got Florida's 4-6, Miami's 4-6, FAU is 4-6, FSU is 3-7, FIU is 1-9, and USF is 1-9. So, no, it has not been good at all. And I mean, the current records: Florida's 4-3, UCF's 3-3, FAU's 3-3, Miami's 2-3. FSU's 2-4, FIU's 1-5, and USF is 1-5. So, and now still, I don't think Florida makes changes. UCF will not. FSU will not. Miami might. So keep your eye on that. Look, it's been a very difficult year for the schools in this state.
Yeah, that is crazy when you actually just look at it and hear it.
It is.
The Sun Belt Conference is trying to expand. Talk to us about that.
They're considering adding up to 4 schools: Southern Miss, Marshall, Old Dominion, James Madison, or some of the schools that I mentioned. Conference USA is doing the same thing, and they're thinking about Liberty and James Madison to be about UAB. Bill Clarkson, a tremendous job there, has applied for membership to the American Athletic Conference, too. And UAB is expected with Charlotte, Florida Atlantic, North Texas, Rice, UTSA are also expected to have the invitation. Now, this is kind of what happens with expansion. It goes from the top down, and we're getting now down to, I'm not being disparaging about this, it's just the way it is, to some of these non-Power 5 conferences, and how are they going to survive? And these are the ways that they're going to survive, but by adding, I think, Shane, what they're probably going to be doing is when you add multiple teams like this, there's strength in numbers, so that's their goal.
Yeah. Brent, there's some openings already, as we know, in the around the country. Washington State, LSU, USC, Georgia Southern, and UConn. What are your thoughts? And I haven't really followed it, but the Nick Rolovich, who was the head coach at Washington State, was forced to resign due to not getting vaccinated. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. It's only him, but also some of his assistants. They just did not want to be vaccinated. The school mandated that they were, but basically they have decided to part ways. Unfortunately, I mean that's a decent team. So I mean it's just so crazy that would happen at this point of the season, but unfortunately it has.
So, Brent, as of today, which I believe is the 21st of October, somewhere around there, who does Brent Beaird think LSU and USC hire?
Well, that's a great question, frankly. Mel Tucker's name has come out really strong for LSU at Michigan State. Tucker's been around lately, and frankly, it just really worked out well for him. Too, I'm not saying they're going to hire him. Look, and until LSU makes a hire, Scott Woodward, their AD, and Jimbo Fisher are best friends. So you really can't rule Jimbo out. I mean, I can't imagine that leaving A&M to go to LSU because at this point now they've got comparable resources. But I mean, look, if he did, I get it. But at some point, Jimbo needs to stay somewhere for a little bit, doesn't he, Shane? James Franklin's been mentioned for both of them. Look, I like James Franklin, but I'm still not sure he did a better job at Vandy than he even has at Penn State. I mean, they're having a good year. There's no question about that, especially if Sean Clifford can stay healthy. But those are the two big ones to watch. And look, who knows who's going to be added to that? But one thing's for sure, Shane, we're in a different era now that we've had this many openings this early in the season.
Yeah, it's crazy. Let's go around the SEC. Not a whole lot. A lot of SEC teams had the week off, but Alabama's hosting Tennessee. This used to be a big game. It's going to be a blowout. Tennessee lost their quarterback. I doubt he plays. Your thoughts on this game?
I think that's going to be the big thing for this game is who is going to be the Tennessee quarterback if Hendon Hooker plays. And listen, in that Ole Miss game, Hendon Hooker was tremendous. And he's like a lot of these dual threat quarterbacks. He's really good, obviously, with his legs. So I think that's going to be determined how it goes. Tyon Evans was out. I think he had an ankle injury. So to me, how offensively with Josh Heupel, they're much better. The question is going to be if they can get Evans back and particularly Hooker back, that would make things better for them. But Hooker had a bad injury toward the end of the game. Shane, I don't know if you saw the end of the game when they put Joe Milton in, but the last play of the game was an absolute debacle, where he should have thrown the ball into the end zone. And Shane, as you saw, for some inexplicable reason, he just ran out of bounds.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd been sleeping for the first half and didn't realize this was the last play of the game or what. I've never seen anything like that. It
was, and it's indicative of how he struggled this year. He was the starting quarterback at Tennessee for a while. Milton's the transfer from Michigan, and he'll overthrow wide open receivers, and he's just very inconsistent. But Alabama was not inconsistent against Mississippi State. They rebounded well. Will Anderson looked like Derek Thomas, the former Alabama linebacker, with 4 sacks. The defense played really well. They continue to run better. They actually ran the ball when they got down to inside the 10-yard line instead of throwing it like they did against A&M. So it was a big rebound for Alabama.
Yeah, and I may have missed this. What did the conference fine University of Tennessee for the debacle of throwing stuff on the field?
$250,000.
$250,000. Yeah.
That's what they find them. But look, the president, the AD, the coaching staff. I don't see how the fine is going to affect anything. I get the point that they do it just to make a statement, but I don't know what the league. It's going to be interesting to see what the league is going to do in dealing with situations like this and preventing them from happening.
Arkansas hosts Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Little Rock. They'll win that game easily, but they're coming off a loss to Auburn. That was a big win for Auburn at Arkansas, Brent.
It really was. Auburn was very consistent in that game. Bo Nix played well. I mean, good grief, Bo Nix was 21-26. Tank Bigsby got involved more. They still need to get their running game more. Demetrius Robinson, who transferred from Georgia, had 2 catches for 81 yards. And now Auburn's won 6 straight over Arkansas, so they've got a little bit of time off. And they've still got a pretty tough schedule coming up. They've got A&M, they've got Ole Miss, they've got Bama that's coming up, so that's not going to be easy. And speaking of Arkansas, real tough blow for them. Jayton Catalon, one of their better defensive players, shoulder surgery on Monday, and he's out for the year. So, Shane, I love Sam Pittman and what he's done. The problem here is, as you know, they don't have a lot of depth because of the poor recruiting, and unfortunately, as the season goes along, it catches up with them.
Yeah, no question. The big one next week, both Florida and Georgia have the week off. Georgia takes care of Kentucky. I think the score was a little closer than the game actually was.
Yeah.
I mean, do you still think Georgia's the most dominating team in America?
Yeah, I think they're the most complete team right now. And people are going to say, why would you say that with the quarterback situation? Look, Stetson Bennett was tremendous against Kentucky.
Yeah, I don't know why people don't like him. I can't figure it out.
I think what it is, that they think that JT Daniels, once he gets well, is going to be Tom Brady, and that may not be the case. But look, Stetson Bennett right now, even as a backup, is assumed the starting role, and I'm sure Kirby Smart will be coy about it. But Bennett's a guy that is actually starting to make some plays instead of just be a game manager. Kirby Smart said this week Eric Gilbert is still away from the program. Eric Gilbert, who was at LSU, had some ties to Florida, is not playing with anybody right now. We mentioned Daniels. He is up. His distance is 40 to 45 yards. He's throwing more, so we'll see where that goes. I've heard that George Pickens may be back for Florida. He's getting better. Kirby Smart said he hadn't been cleared yet. But look, George is still what, and the offense is good, but whatever the offense doesn't do, the Georgia defense is so good that it covers a multitude of sins, and for special teams or for on the offense.
Yeah, it's crazy. For Florida, everybody wants to talk about the quarterback and if Anthony's going to start. I don't know what's going to happen there. I think he will play quite a bit. But I try to tell people, Brent, and people are upset with Todd Grantham, and I totally understand it. But what I try to tell people, if you want to make a change at quarterback, how about let's make a change at some defensive personnel, because they ain't getting it done. And I went back and watched the LSU. They just got blocked the entire game. And it drives me insane where, nobody tried to make a play. And I just, so my point is, if one linebacker ain't getting it done, let's try another linebacker. If that's what everybody wants at the quarterback position. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I look at it.
Well, look, I agree with that. And Todd Grantham's contract runs out at the end of the year. Will there be some changes made on that defensive staff? Yes, probably. But look, I'm with you. The thing that was disturbing about that game, among many things, and I'll be brief about it because I know you've talked about it, is as you mentioned, when you run the same play over and over again, and you can't stop it, that's a problem. And you switch up personnel in order to get that done. But look, to me, here's the bottom line for the off season: they've got to get some coaches in there who are better recruiters. That's just the way it is. Everybody knows that. I appreciate loyalty, but that's going to happen. And the case in point is LSU that lost a bunch of starters. Derek Stingley, Boutte, the wide receiver. Shane, you saw this because you called the game, is they have a roster full of 5 stars. And even though they lost a bunch of starters, they've still got really good football players, don't they?
They do. They do. There's no question. And it wasn't one of the better LSU teams I've ever seen, but they're still extremely athletic and fast. We don't look as fast as we have in the past. I will say that. Brent, the premier game in the conference is LSU at Ole Miss. LSU coming off their big win. We don't know the status of Matt Corral. Have you heard anything?
Yeah, well, only that it's kind of day to day at this point. Corral had an incredible game against Tennessee. It was 21-38 for 231, but he get this, he ran 30 times. I mean, sometimes a tailback doesn't run 30 times for 195 yards, so he got beat up in the game. I think he will play. Well, we don't know that for sure. And if he doesn't play, what is he going to do? To put at quarterback, that's going to be fascinating. By the way, Ole Miss is retiring Eli Manning's jersey at this game, which is interesting. But it by far, as Shane said, this is the game of the week in a lot of ways. Because, Shane, my question is, can LSU have 2 really good performances in a row?
Well, it's interesting, Brent, because I felt like in the second half of LSU Kentucky, they got back to kind of LSU football, running it, because they ran for over 100 yards in that game. I think people forget. Yes. And then they basically went back to the old LSU counters and power plays. And so wouldn't it be something if LSU, well, now, granted, they got to play Ole Miss, Alabama, A&M, and Arkansas, I think, and maybe somebody else. I mean, I don't think they win many of those, if any. Wouldn't it be something if they won them all?
Yeah, it really would. After this game, they have a week off, and so does Alabama, before the 2 teams play each other after that.
South Carolina travels to College Station. Aggies are playing pretty good football right now, but South Carolina's starting quarterback's out.
Yeah, they've had that trouble with Luke Doty the whole year. It has been the problem. And Zeb Nolan, again, Zeb Nolan is a GA, and they asked him to play quarterback, and he has done a serviceable job by doing that. Part of their problem is Kevin Harris, who is one of the better running backs in the league last year, has really been disappointing this year for one reason or another. But I still give them credit. I mean, South Carolina is still 4-3. Listen, Shane, if somehow they get to 6-6, they ought to build a statue for Shane Beamer right off the bat. A&M will win the game, and they have continued to play pretty consistent since the Alabama win. That that'll be interesting to see how that continues. Zach Calzada is still pretty pedestrian. Last week in the Missouri win, 13-25 for 148. So A&M continues to improve.
Yeah, that I have a feeling that loss at home to Mississippi State is going to really haunt the Aggies, because if they don't lose that game, they're still in the hunt to get on, to go to the playoffs. Brent, I got a text here on the Titan MR text line. It came from George. George wants to know, Brent, if you had to vote today on the Heisman Trophy, who would your top 3 be?
I'm so conflicted on that right now. To be honest with you, Jordan, listen, this may surprise some people. Jordan Davis, the defensive lineman at Georgia, would be in my group. Frankly, Matt Corral would be in it without any doubt. And he may be even my number 1 at this point. 2 to think about that. So I know those 2 would be in there. Also, Sean Clifford would have been if he hadn't gotten hurt, frankly. But I'll say this, for all the Heisman Trophy voters, this has been the toughest year that we've had. And look, but if you ask me, is that a good thing? I'm going to say yes, it is, because you've got so many different guys who are playing well at this point. Caleb Williams of Oklahoma, if he had played more instead of Spencer Rattler, I think he would be up there. And I won't be surprised if Caleb is in this thing pretty strong in November if he continues to play well.
Yeah, he's a really, really good player. Brent, a few nuggets before we let you go.
Missouri is off. They have been outscored, Shane, in the first quarter 63-10 in SEC play. So that has been an unbelievable problem for them the entire year. That's the worst defense in the league, and they've got to be able to do something about that defense, or that's going to continue to be a real problem for them. They've got to fix that in the offseason. Kentucky is off. But looking at the schedule, don't be shocked if Kentucky. This is a mouthful here. Kentucky could be 11-1 at the end of the year. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's hard to believe. I mean, that'd be a heck of a year. Stoops has had a great run this year, no question about it. We had I lost those Facebook Lives, so we'll have to read those another time. Brent, good stuff as always. Safe travels this weekend, and we'll talk to you next week, bud.
I can't wait, bud. Take care.
Yep, that's Brent Beaird, our Heisman Trophy voter. Join us on the Titan More Hotline. We're going to take our first time out, come back. We're going to be talking a little high school sports on the Baker Sporting Goods high school roundup with Mike Ridaught from theprepzone.com. You're watching and listening. Pot Up with Matthews in the morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Wrap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Big Mills Cheesesteaks. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Are you tired of being sidelined by nagging pain? Hi, I'm Emmitt Smith, Hall of Famer and Dance with the Stars champion. Happy to tell you about QC Kinetics and their biologic therapies for treating pain without drugs or surgery.
Are you suffering from chronic pain in your hips, knees, shoulder, or lower back? Are you tired of living with arthritis pain? QC Kinetics offers natural pain treatment that can repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints.
Listen, I know pain, and I've seen firsthand how powerful biologic therapies can be. Patients at QC Kinetics rave about their result because they're getting their lives back. They're getting moving again.
These exciting regenerative treatments used to be available only to pro athletes like Emmitt. Now they're available to anyone thanks to QC Kinetics. Call today for your free consultation.
Get long-lasting results from my friends at QC Kinetics.
Call QC Kinetics 352-400-4550. In North Central Florida, call 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Celebration points for the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Nike, Prime and Pearl, Regal Cinemas, Medici, Dave & Buster's, Skechers, and the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Make your reservations today at spurriers.com. and now open Thursday through Sunday. Buyers tailgate and rooftop bar. We'll see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. We're going to now go to the Titan MR Hotline, and we're going to be joined by our man Mike Ridaught from the PrepZone.com and Mainstreet Daily News. Good morning, Mike. How are you, bud?
Hey, good, Shane. Good to be back with you again. How are you?
Not too bad. I want to read this Facebook Live. It doesn't have a whole lot to do with high school, but Joseph chimes in here on Facebook Live and wants to know. He says, "It baffles me. He's supposedly the QB whisperer," referring to Coach Mullen, "and he's the only person in America that doesn't think AR should be the starting quarterback. He's really off his rocker." You know, Mike, and I may have said it on my show or another show. I had another former college quarterback, a couple years younger than me, text me last week going, if Mullen's considered a quarterback guru or a whisperer, however you want to phrase it, why doesn't more of the top quarterbacks sign to play for him? And I never really thought about that. I thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah, obviously he's done a great job with quarterbacks as you look at his history.
Right.
You know, but obviously there's a lot more that in play than just being a good quarterback. You obviously have to have a line that can block for you. You got to have receivers. You know, those types of things go into play as well.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. All right, Mike, give us a recap of some of the local games that happened last week.
Yeah, last week, Shane, our game that we broadcast, Gainesville Middleburg, was essentially an elimination game in 6A District 4. Gainesville High School. You know, here's the great thing about GHS and the job that Doc Pollard has done. I think I might even mention this last time I was on with you, but Gainesville's won 5 games now. They're 5-2 overall. They're 2-0 in the district after the win last week. They beat Middleburg last week, 36-27, but they had won. Now they had a COVID-shortened season last year, so they only played 6 games. They went 2-4 last year. They went 2-8 in 2019. So they've only won 4 games over the previous 2 seasons, and they've already won 5 games this year. Middleburg, a team that got off to a 3-0 start, their best start since 2010. So really, Gainesville and Middleburg were having pretty good seasons based on how they played in the past. And it was a 20-7 lead for Gainesville at the half. You kind of felt like, okay, GHS might pull away in this thing. But then Caleb Freitag from Middleburg returned the second half kick, 93 yards for a touchdown. All of a sudden, we've got a 1-score game. Ended up being tied at 27 late in the third quarter. And then Gainesville was able to get a third field goal from Cooper Badix to take a 30-27 lead with about 6.5 minutes to play in the game. And then they added a late touchdown to win it 36-27. So GHS is actually in action tonight. They're going to play Orange Park Ridgeview. Ridgeview's not any good. I think Gainesville, if they can just stay focused, take care of business, we could have a running clock in the second half. Ridgeview's only won 1 game this year. They're winless in league play. But this sets up the showdown next week, Shane. And this is going to be the case for a lot of teams. You've got this week and next week as your critical district games. So Gainesville wins tonight. They've got St. Augustine on the road next week. That'll be a tough challenge, but still keeping themselves in position to win a district championship. So a big game for GHS tonight, even though it's not a big-time opponent, it's still a must-win game for them if they want to create that scenario for next week. I'll be on the call for that game tonight. I'll also be broadcasting a big one tomorrow night, Shane, from Bradford High School in Stark. We've got Buchholz against Jacksonville Bowles. Bowles, the defending, state runners-up last year in 4A. They are ranked number 1 in the state in 4A. Buchholz ranked top 10 in the state in 7A. Buchholz has only lost 1 game. That was to Cardinal Gibbons of Fort Lauderdale, which beat Bowles in last year's state championship game. So really looking forward to that game. And we rank the top 20 high school football teams across 26 counties at the Prep Zone, and those are our top 2 teams. Bowles is ranked number 1 in the poll. Buchholz is ranked number 2. So really excited about that game. Hawthorne, by the way, they've just moved up to number 1 in the state in Class 1A. Shane Baker got beat. Hawthorne is the new number 1 team in Class 1A. And we still have that little cluster of teams that are undefeated in our area. Union County, Hawthorne, and Chiefland are all undefeated, as is Keystone Heights. Keystone Heights is 7-0. They actually play tonight as well. They're going to be on the road at Pearson Taylor. So yeah, we're getting down to the final. Well, we still have a third week left in the regular season going into that first week of November, but really these next 2 weeks are critical as far as the district races go.
So, Mike, you're on the call tonight for GHS. You said it's probably going to be a running clock. As a radio broadcaster, do you like the running clock? You can get home a lot faster?
I like the running clock for several reasons. Because of my job with Mainstreet Daily News now, I am writing recaps of games. So, yes, if I can get a running clock, I can go ahead and get out of there and get home and get an article done. But also, I also like it as – you kind of equate it to, playing your scrubs, for example, because if the game gets out of hand, I'll turn it over to my color commentator, let him give it a chance to do some play-by-play, and I kind of take, the rest of the night off from a broadcast standpoint. So for that reason, I like it too, to give some guys an opportunity to get some play-by-play experience.
As a former coach, high school, I hated the running clock. And the reason is you want to get your backups in.
Yeah,
there's a possibility they won't even get in the game because, it's literally 24 minutes nonstop. The clock runs no matter what. And if a team is like a running team that you're playing and they're getting blown out, they could put together 3 or 4 first downs, the game's over, and your backups never get in. So I absolutely hated it. There's also a big game down in the Marion County. I want to say it's to win the district, the Vanguard Knights and the Bellevue Rattlers.
Well, this is that old saying of separating the men from the boys. We're going to find out just how good Bellevue is. Obviously, Brady's done a great job with Bellevue this year. 7 wins. They've only lost 1 game, but they're playing Vanguard. I think they can compete with them for a little bit, but I still think Vanguard's the better team. So I like Vanguard to win that game, kind of going away. But, kudos to Brady and the job that he has done in his first year with the Rattlers, because they are in position. They're in the driver's seat. They control their own destiny, in other words. So, a shout out to Brady for the job that he's done there at Bellevue. And that's going to be a big game, and then a couple of other teams there in the Ocala area, Shane. You got Denellen, which is in position right now. You remember they got blown out by Buchholz in the first game of the year, and we weren't sure which direction they were going to go in. Although I felt like by season's end, Denellen would be back in the race, and they are. With Leesburg right there too, and then North Marion. North Marion's got a couple of big games coming up this week, next week. They've got Clay next week, and it's a chance for North Marion to possibly win a district title as well. So, like I said, these next 2 weeks are critical from a district race standpoint. And you got a bunch of local teams that are, kind of jockeying for position for a chance to win a district title.
We got a text here, Mike, for you on the Titan Mart text line. It comes from Larry. Larry wants to know, Mike, who's the best high school player you have seen in person this year?
That's a question that I would like to say is an easy answer. And the reason that I phrase it that way, Shane, is because I still feel like the best player in the area from an offensive standpoint is Quan Lee. And Quan, in the games that we have broadcast this year, has kind of been up and down. I noted the one game where I told you I felt like he was in the doghouse in their game a couple of weeks ago. He's since gotten out of the doghouse and came out in a big way against Gainesville High School. He had a 53-yard punt return for a touchdown. He also had a touchdown pass call back. So for me, the best player that I've seen so far, I still think is Quan Lee at Buchholz High School.
Got a Facebook Live brought to you by Meldon Law. Joseph says the big game, Madison County versus Columbia. Madison doesn't play the same cupcake schedule all the other 1A teams play. Now let me back up on that. It's because none of the 1A schools will play Madison County. Isn't that how it works,
exactly.
Mike?
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What's the advantage of playing them? If you're a bigger school, it benefits Madison County more. So now Madison County, obviously, they go on to have a good year. That's going to count, as far as your RPI and so forth. But Madison County has never been afraid to step up and play big-time competition. They opened up the season, even though they got blown out. They started out the season against Valdosta, Georgia. They played Denellen, lost to Denellen in a 2-point game. They've beaten Swanee out of Live Oak 27-0. That's a 5A school, even though Swanee might be a little bit down this year. But Columbia, big win against Jacksonville Riverside, which formerly used to be Jacksonville Lee. And Lee had a big lead in that game, and Columbia comes back to win it to keep, they're just, they're going to win a district championship. So Columbia 6-2, Madison County 4-3 going into that game. That's a tough one to pick. I'm leaning towards Madison County. I just feel like this is that kind of point in the season where we start seeing the Cowboys starting to rise a little bit. And Hawthorne did lead Madison County in the state ranking. So, you got 3 losses. It's kind of hard to put them at number 1 when Hawthorne is beaten. They're beating up on the bigger classification teams, and they've got another big classification team this week. Hawthorne's at home against Forest. But yeah, Madison County, I still think, when it comes to 1A playoff time, they're going to be there in the end. Hawthorne, boy, it'd be a great rematch if we can see Hawthorne and Madison County play again for the right to go to the state championship game.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. A few more minutes with Mike Ridaught from the PrepZone.com and Mainstreet Daily News. I want to get back to that Buchholz Bowls game. Why are they playing in Stark?
I haven't found out why we're playing it on a neutral field. I love the field there at Bradford High School, artificial surface. I think it'll be a great venue. Obviously, can you get more people in there than you can get at Citizens Field? No, but maybe it was a situation, Shane, where they couldn't agree on playing a home-and-home series, and neither team wanted to, play on the road. That's the only thing that I can figure out. But until I'll talk to Coach Whittemore about that on Friday to find out why this game was moved to Bradford High School. Not moved because that's how it was scheduled at the beginning of the season, but I would like to know why is this game being played on a neutral field. But that would be my guess. Maybe something with contract negotiations. They couldn't work out a home-and-home deal. Neither team wanted to go on the road for this game, and they just decided to play at a neutral field.
Yeah, Joseph said Stark has a nice turf field. They do, but turf fields suck. Trust me, they stink. I can't stand them. I wonder if GHS is at home tonight. I wonder if Eastside is at home Friday night, and it was scheduling a conflict because all 3 schools use Citizens Field. That could be it.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, because Eastside is at home tomorrow night. So you got Gainesville at home tonight. You got Eastside at home tomorrow. So yeah, that's certainly possible, Shane, and that could be another reason if this was the only week that Buchholz and Bradford or Bowles could play, that's certainly possible too, because you had Gainesville and Eastside playing home games. You don't want to play this game over at Santa Fe High School, which Buchholz has played a homecoming game at Santa Fe High School before. So why not play it on a better field? Well, yeah. I like the artificial turf, but I didn't play football, so. But I do awful. I do like the venue there at Bradford, though.
There's only one good thing about artificial turf: your maintenance department doesn't have to do a damn thing. That's it. Other than that, it's awful, awful. Mike, I'm gonna put you on the spot, and normally people that call the games can't really pick a game. At least that's what they do at Herb Street on game day, right?
Yeah.
Who you like in this Buchholz Bowls game?
I've been thinking about that this week because you go back to the game that we broadcast against Cardinal Gibbons, which I mentioned beat Bowles in last year's state championship game. And that was, a situation where Shane turnovers cost Buchholz in that game early because Creed Whittemore had only thrown 1 interception going into that game against Cardinal Gibbons. He threw 3 picks in that game. So his first interception got tipped and intercepted. I think it was about maybe just under 5 minutes to play in the game when Cardinal Gibbons scored their first touchdown off that interception. The interception led to points. Even though Buchholz got it back to a 6-point game, Whittemore throws a couple more picks. In fact, late in that game, Cardinal Gibbons turned the ball over right around the Buchholz goal line, but on the very next play, and you're talking about, I think there was 3.5 minutes to play, somewhere around there left in the game. So Buchholz had the football, down 1 possession. Now, even though they had to go 99 yards, the next play, Whittemore throws another interception. Ball game's over. So I think if Buchholz can take care of the football, they'll make it a game. But the only problem is this is a good Bowls team. Now, it seems like we say that every year about Bowls. I mean, they're a perennial power. But when you look at their schedule and the teams that they played, Shane, I mean, they have dominated teams this year, dominated good teams, in fact. I mean, they beat Columbia and Lake City 34-7. They beat Trinity Christian, which was, number one in the state in their classification. They beat them 35-0. So this Bowls team is legit. They haven't lost a game, but Buchholz, their only loss was to Cardinal Gibbons. So I do think that if Buchholz doesn't beat themselves, I think they got a chance to win the game. Right now, I would probably lean towards Bowls. I just think they're that much. They're legit. They're for real, and I think they'll win a state championship this year.
Yeah, I think Buchholz is going to win this game. I think their speed and how they spread you out, and I think they're pretty stout on the defensive line. Because Bowls is a running team, so we'll see. Before we let you go, Mike, you had a homework assignment a few weeks ago, and Joseph or John or somebody was wanting to know if you ever looked into the QB that was ruled ineligible in the state of Georgia, but transferred to Bradford and was able to play right away.
Yeah, I dropped the ball, Shane.
The dog ate your homework?
Yes. I did talk to somebody about it, and they didn't know anything about it, and I didn't research any further. So I honestly forgot about it at that point. So give me an F.
Yeah, you got an F. Real quick, in like 1 minute, volleyball's in the playoffs, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you've got district championship games coming up tonight. Bell and Dixie County in 1A District 6. You got Union County and Newberry in 1A District 7. Again, these are just in our coverage area, MainstreetDailyNews.com. Oak Hall will play St. John's Country Day for the 2A District 4 title. PK Young still alive, or at least they were last night. Keystone Heights in that district, 3A District 3. But Santa Fe, which is ranked 11th nationally, will play North Marion tonight for the 4A District 4 championship. Gainesville will play a semifinal tonight, and it's at Tallahassee Leon, which is the top seed. That district championship game is tomorrow. So that's a look at some of the teams in the Gainesville area. Trinity Catholic, really good. I mean, they're ranked 50th nationally, I believe. So I think that they will win a district championship as well. So, yeah, volleyball regionals Tuesday and Wednesday next week. So we're in postseason now for high school volleyball, and we'll have a recap of the teams in our area tonight at MainstreetDailyNews.com. We'll also have a recap of the Gainesville football game against Ridaught tonight.
Yep. So one more time before we let you go, how they can check out all your work at Prep Zone and Mainstreet.
Yeah, the PrepZone.com, that's usually where you can find our broadcast. You can find a link to tonight's broadcast of the Gainesville game. We'll have links tomorrow there for the Buchholz Bowls game at Bradford if you want to listen to that one. It's on 106.9 FM in Gainesville, but also you can listen to it online. And we have an audio game of the week each week at MainstreetDailyNews.com, and that one is Ocala Forest at Hawthorne. So we'll have a link for that at the PrepZone.com. But then also you can check out our regional rankings at the Prep Zone at MainstreetDailyNews.com. Check out our recaps, like I mentioned, of the games, not only tonight, but also I'll have a recap of that Bowls-Buchholz game tomorrow night, and we'll also have a recap of the Forest Hawthorne game tomorrow night at MainstreetDailyNews.com.
Good stuff as always, Mike. Appreciate it, buddy. Have a good call.
All right. Thanks, Shane. Have a great day. Appreciate the time.
Yep, that's Mike Ridaught. Join us on the Titan More Hotline. Going to take our final time out, come back, wrap up this Thursday edition.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avera and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. I want to thank Mike Ridaught for joining us on the Titan MR hotline, and also our good friend Brent Beaird. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Rat Spot. Be safe. We'll see you tomorrow, folks.